Pictures like this are really inspiring, but not very helpful for our modelling purposes. Your typical hull shapes, displacement, semi-displacement, and planing hull. That's what I'm going for. This reference picture, the resolution isn't high enough, I don't think. You could use it, but there's also no front pictures. This, I think, works really well. You've got a good perspective picture to give you a good idea of what's supposed to be going on. Good image from the front. These red lines here show what your bulkhead shape should be as it tapers along. Good view from the side and from the bottom. I'm not going to use this because I don't really want this continuously tapering line. Some other images, really good looking boats, but a lot of lines and they're low detail, low resolution. Again, similar, low resolution, great boat, but I'm not modelling that. We're getting there, a bit more detail. This one I like. I strongly considered using it. These reference images I think would work really well, but we're getting somewhere here. So I'm going to use this from the front, this view from the front, and this view from the side. And you can see the link where I got these images from. This one is, I think, a white pointer, but I'm not certain. I mainly had this for outboard positioning and for the hard top. The hard top is this cabin part up here. The rail on the side is also quite useful. Again, a white pointer. Boats, I think, made in New Zealand. Good reference pictures. Here's a real life one. And a Maclay boat. This picture I really liked for its reference for where the outboard mounts, extra handrails and rails up the front. I think particularly good. Also for where I think that's a winch, it's drum winch, so I can kind of see how that might lay out. Here's some just basics of what you'd find in an outboard. This profile is more of a real outboard that I could model. They're quite challenging to get good topology, but I'll do my best a little later on. I found some pretty good images of some Yamaha motors, so that's why I've got Yamaha. No particular preference, they just happen to have good images. So you've got to start by setting yourself up some decent folders. I've got one for documents, that's my PowerPoint that I showed reference pictures. These are my original models from my practice. Just make sure that you keep increasing the number on the end, the version number, so you can keep track of everything. This is the folder where I'm going to save my models for the video so they don't get confused. Some reference pictures, and these are the reference pictures I'll be using for the boat that I'm making and the video recording. Here are some of my tracks so far. So start off by getting rid of your default cube, and we're going to insert some reference pictures. Now I'm going to click over here, and what I want you to look at is the view. So that's right orthographic. If I click the Y axis, that's back orthographic, and left, I'm really looking for the front orthographic there, so the letter Y pointing at you. The 3D cursor is in the origin. Actually be quite sensible if I turned on my screencast keys. So down here you can see what I pushed last. So if I go Shift A, you can now see what I pushed, and I'm going to come down to empty image. This image is sitting flat, almost like a piece of paper on a table pointing up to the ceiling, and this empty I'm going to rotate. So down the bottom here, if I have not modified anything, then I can just align it to my view. Next thing to do with this empty, if we come over to the properties panel, this green axis here is the empty. So I'm going to click open and go and navigate to my reference pictures for the video, but I want this front view here. You could of course change those to thumbnails. So that's my front view, open image, and that's way too small, so I might best for scale, maybe 5 times bigger. That's still way too small, so manually scale S and pull out to the side. If you really wanted to, you could adjust some of these cubes to being the same size, but I don't think it matters a great deal. Just thinking about the scene size, these camera and default lights, so we don't really need to see those for now. This empty, that's my reference picture, that's my reference picture front. I'm going to make a new collection, right click in there, new collection, so these are my reference pictures, and I'm going to drag that into that collection. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look from the side, and I'm going to repeat that process. Shift A to add, empty image, and then open reference pictures and open that image. Scale it so it's much bigger. And I need to line this up a bit better. So if I scale that and then go G for grab, but I'm going to bring it in this green axis, that's the Y axis. G, Y, bring it forward until it lines up. Move in a little bit. And GZ to bring that up. They aren't quite the right size, so I'm going to scale GY. It's just a little bit of fluffing about. GZ. So what I think is happening is these lines here are the back of the boat, and that's the bottom line at the back of the boat. So that's nearly there. Scale bigger ever so slightly, I think. GY, pull it back. GX. And I think that's just about ready. So I've got my reference pictures. This one here, turn it on and off, so that's my side image. So in my collection I've got a series of, so I can turn them on and off, reference pictures from the front and from the side. So first thing to do is save as. These are my previous saves from my practice. So boat, models for my video, BOAT, boat, model, 01. Put a number like that on the end, so later on when you go to save, you can just click the plus and it will increase the number. So that's my first save point. I can always come back to there. So file, save as, and if I hit plus, just like I mentioned, it's now boat model 2. Save as. But if I look from the front, okay, so the next thing is I have to start modeling the bulkheads and the transom. So I'm going to insert a plane, go Shift A. Okay, so the next thing is I have to start modeling the bulkheads and the transom. So I'm going to insert a plane, go Shift A, Mesh, Plane, and that's where the 3D cursor is. I'm going to rotate that to my view, and I'm going to probably tab into edit mode, loop cut, and cut it straight down through the middle. The reason I'm going to do that is I want to add in a mirror modifier. Delete those vertices off that side. So with cutting right in the middle, it's left my origin point right in the center. So when I apply my mirror modifier, so over here in the tab, this one that looks like a wrench or a spanner, add modifier, and then I come to mirror. So the whole thing is mirrored. Whatever I make on the left will be the same as what's on the right. I'm going to have to start by modeling on the left, and then I'll flip it later. So on the left hand side of this image is the outline for the back section, and on the right side is the outline for the front section of the boat. So if I just push tab and go into object mode, I'm going to grab, and the origin point, that you see that dot in the middle, that is going to stay in the center of the boat. So that's particularly important. If I did that in edit mode, it just breaks, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to turn clipping on before I forget. Clipping means that I can't pull it apart like you just saw me do. So I'm going to grab that top section, modeling. I'm going to go into modeling. Seems to be bugging me slightly. So GZ, pull that up to the top, grabbing this vertex here on the left. I'm going to go GX, and that means that it's going to move out to the side. Now, I'm not certain, but I believe the transom is a little narrower and then it bulges out slightly, so this is the first point. So I'm going to double tap A. Looks like my screencast keys have turned off. There they are, they're back again now. So I'm going to grab that vertex and grab it and pull it down. So if you see this line, I'm going to bring it down, 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 and then eventually drop it there. Now this one, I'm going to pull down to here, but what we can tell is I need a cut here. So I'm going to subdivide that, but I really would like to see through. So if we look up the top here, if I click this one here, if I hover over it, it says toggle X-ray. So that means I can see through. That's really helpful for me. So I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to push number 2. That's the hotkey to change to the edge mode. It's up here on the top left. And I'm going to highlight that edge. I'm going to subdivide that. I push W to bring up this menu, and it's now subdivided. And you'll see one slightly yellow, one slightly white. So if I push 1 as a hotkey, you'll see there is a vertex only just. You'll see it. If I double tap G and loop slide that on. What's going on? I think I had a tool locked on. So if I grab that, I'm going to bring it up to make the chine up here. I think that's really what I want. It's hard to tell exactly where it's going to be, but I do know that this is going to be horizontal or flat with the ground. So I'm going to go scale, S for scale, Z for the Z axis, that's the up and down. You can now see the blue, and then I push 0 and that's going to make it flat. It was pretty flat anyway. So that plane that I put in, that's going to be my first bulkhead. It's really the transom at the end, but it's called plane at the moment, so I'm just going to call them bulkheads. Now, if I call it .001, when I duplicate that, it's going to make the next one .002, and it will make life a little easier. I'm going to make a collection, right click in here, new, and this collection, rather than collection 3, is going to be bulkhead. And I'm going to put that bulkhead into that collection. So now I'm going to go tab to object mode, and I've got this bulkhead selected, and I'm going to go and duplicate it. So if I go shift D and then right click to drop it, I'm going to go G, Y, grab in the Y axis and bring it forward, and then drop it in place. And you'll notice the naming convention has gone .002, so that's pretty handy. I'm going to look from the front. I'm going to hide bulkhead number 1 so that I don't get confused, and I'm now going to go to make sure that I have that object highlighted. I'm having a problem. I'm selecting the reference image and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to click up here and make a couple of adjustments, so I don't want to be able to select my reference images, and I do want to be able to select that. Okay, so in object mode, so I have to change to edit mode, and I'm going to get that vertice, and I'm going to G X and pull it out and then drop. Looking in closer to G into the X axis and move it across. And again, it's hard to tell where things are going. Just using my best judgment that I can, and then at the front it looks to be increasing its taper. G, Z, pull that down. Cool. And similar process as before, tab to edit mode, Shift D, G for grab, Y for the Y axis, and bring that forward. So that's bulkhead number 3. Going to hide the second one, look from the front, and make some more modifications. Tab into edit mode, G for grab, pop that out, G for grab, G and Y so it doesn't X, excuse me, X is sideways, and then again GZ, pull that down, just a slight taper change. Excellent. So I'm going to re-show each of these, and what's important to understand is the actual editable side is on the left at the moment. Now all the data I need is on the right over there, so I could either flip the reference image or spin, so I may just do that in object mode, take that bulkhead R, Z, and then type 180 RZ 180 RZ 180 RZ 18, excuse me, 80, tab into edit mode. And now what we can see is all of the editable parts are on the right hand side. So those are my bulkheads, and if I just change into a better lighting system it might help a little bit better. So I'm going to continue to model these bulkheads. I'm going to duplicate off bulkhead 4, make sure I'm in object mode, Shift D, G, Y, bring it forward, drop it, hide bulkhead 4, look from the front, click this button, toggle X-ray, in edit mode. Don't think that does a lot in material preview. So if I go back to solid, now I can see what I'm doing. So I need to now bring these up because it starts to taper up.
It's getting wider, GX. And GZ, bring it down. Done. Tab to edit mode, Shift D, GY, bring it forward. Hide that. Making sure I'm in edit mode. GX, zoom just a little bit. Grab. GZ, bring down. Zoom out, tab to object mode, Shift D to duplicate, GY, bring forward. Drop, hide, flip from the front. Tab to edit mode. Grab. And pulling it down. Looks like there's a bit of a bend through there. May have to add some loop cuts and pull those, possibly. I want to keep it as simple as I can to begin with. Shift D to duplicate, GY bring forward. Tab for edit mode, GX. Looks like again a bit of a curve through there. May need to just pull it out a little later. Tab for edit mode. Shift D for duplicate, GY to bring forward. Tab to edit mode. GX. Yeah, if you look at that, there's some huge bend in there now. Okay, I'm just going to keep it here for now. Shift D, G, Y. Fairly boring.
Okie dokie. So I've got all of these bulkheads. And I think it's about time to start putting in the sides. I'm going to highlight all of those. Okay. File, save as, plus, save. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to join all of these. I'm holding down shift and pushing down till I get to the bottom, and I'm going to control J, and I just joined them all. So they're now called bulkhead 1. Probably a bit excessive there. And I'm now going to start joining the sides together using the fill tool. So I'm going to start with the chine. So I'm going to use the circle select, F to fill. Starting with everything deselected, C for circle. There we go. And scroll on your mouse wheel, make it bigger, paint those and the ones in the front. Right click to drop, push F to fill. Deselect, select the front, fill, deselect. Oh, must be missing that one. Fill. So you can deselect by circle shift clicking, C for circle and shift clicking, and I've kept these ones so that I can make adjustments as necessary. What you'll see from the side is I haven't quite got that one right. So I'm going to change the position of it. I'm going to go to wireframe to make sure I collect everything. I'm going to box select that, and I'm going to go GY, bring it backwards. There we go. So at least that tape is going to follow the front of the boat. Come out of wireframe. So I've popped the chine on the side there. I'm just going to have to say ooh to that bit, getting really wide then not. So what I'm going to do is scale that, I think. And this left and right is the z-axis, scale x0, so that's a nice straight line. Now to put on the bottom plate, some of these reference pictures are in the way, so I might just hide those. 1, 2, 3, 4, fill. 1, 2, 3, and fill. So when you're using circle select, you have to right click to drop it, or push escape. So we'll push escape in this case, and then F to fill. those. That's most of the boat done. Let's come back and do the sides. Then 1, 2, 3. Gonna look from the top, I think. Extrude. Then look from the side. Turn my reference pictures back on. Okay, so I've got a boat, basic shape, no deck yet. If we look at the boat at the moment, and I look at my loops, I can hold down Option click and it highlights nicely. But what it won't do is if I Option click along here, I can't get that loop going along, and that's because of I don't have a quad. So I'm going to go and tidy up some of my geometry. So in order to do that, I'm going to highlight all of that. Hopefully it didn't get anything on the inside. Looks fine. And I'm going to push the letter H, or H if you're an Australian, and that's just hidden everything. So I'm going to look from the end, and I'm going to use the knife cut tool, K for knife cut. Actually I might change to vertice select, K for knife cut. And then when you hover over the vertice, the outline of the green dot has a red. So if I hover over there, it can go on any angle. So I now push the letter C for constrain. It will now place, and I can push return. And that's just done the one, and that's fine. So now I'm going to highlight that and hide it and repeat. Push return. 3, hide 1k. And then to unhide, Option H. Unhid everything. We'll test out my... So what I'm finding is that some loop cuts are working to a point, but not any further. And what that is, it's caused by the fact they're connected to these bulkheads inside. So just like I had to do in my practice, I had to separate the outside sections. So I'm going to essentially highlight the hull, do a little double check that I didn't miss anything, or highlight stuff that's inside. So there's some. Making sure I haven't missed anything. So this part I'm now going to label the hull. Got to separate it first. So push the letter P, and then that brings up the separate menu, and I'm going to separate by selection. This has now created a new part, and its name is Bulkhead 2. So if I go to object mode and deselect, this part is the hull. So I'm going to rename that hull, and the collection boat. So now with the hull selected, I can option click and get all of my loop selection flowing. That's quite important. I need the loop flow happening. I'm going to need that for when I put in a subdivision surface later. I'm going to need to put in loop cuts, and if this doesn't flow, neither will my loop cuts. I'm going to insert another reference picture, Shift A, empty image. Now that is aligned to view, so I'm going to bring it over here, scale it, make it bigger, and I'm going to open not big enough, and it's pointing the wrong direction. So I'm going to rotate that in the z-axis 180 return. So I'm looking to make the end of my boat a little more like that. So I'm going to need to put a loop cut perhaps there and pull that section out. I'm going to call it by its name. It's, what is it, a 7.4 meter hardtop from platealloy.com. And I need to put that in the reference picture folder. So looking side on, and I'm going to apply a subdivision surface modifier to this. And what you'll notice is there's a whole lot of pulling away. It shrunk away from the bulkheads. We're going to put in some loop cuts. The first one being around Control R for loop cut, edit mode, Control R, and pop that one down to here. Something strange going on here that needs investigation. I'm not entirely sure why that looks the way that it does. But anyway, looking from the side, I'll fix that later, I think. Z for wireframe. Box, select that and pull G, Y, pull it out to the back. G, Y, bring that slightly forward. So I got everything I needed, I think. That one is going to come up though. GZ, make that flat. Grab that one, G, Y. Give both of them. Probably need a cut across there. So now we've got a slightly better profile at the back. I'm going to need to put in some more loop cuts to essentially tighten everything up. So Control R, and then as I hover over this line you'll see the yellow basically asking you where do you want to cut. So if I put one here I can click and bring it up. Now if I push various different keys like E or F, E, 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 F. Essentially I get different loop cuts. I know I'm going to need one around the top. I'm also going to need one Control R, loop cut this way, just in from the edge, and I'll need one Control R, loop cutting around here and just up. And one around here to sharpen this edge up. Now this is a triangle, so it doesn't want to flow through. So what I may need to do is knife cut and then turn some of these shapes into nice and cut. So we've got one dirty little triangle hiding right there. That's going to affect the loop selection. But now this side here is not a triangle. So if I option click, interesting. Looks separated. Going to have to look into why that is separated. What do you know? It's not joined. So if I go to wireframe, both of those, option M, join at center, option click, so I think that's joined there. Yep. It looks to be joined there. Okay, so there's something else going on there. So they need to be joined. Option M, join at center. Option M, there we go, option click I mean. So we've got a loop selection working. Excellent. That one won't work because it's a try. Don't like triangles, because I know I'm going to need to loop cut all through here. I'll keep that dirty little secret right there. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Just checking. So I'm option clicking or alt clicking depending on what species of computer you're on.
Stay tuned for Chapter 2.